going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of CryptoZombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, in yesterday's video, we spoke about the next 24 hours being very critical for Bitcoin and the broader markets alike. Now, what is happening currently is after we did have that 3-day weekend, we have had the open for the stocks. Now, this is the S&P. I'm just using this as an example, but you can see right here, guys, we opened with a red candle and we are pushing downwards on this 100 daily moving average. Now, the reason that this average is so significant is because it has generally held the stock market up throughout this rally. And actually, if I turn on these spider lines, which we're also providing a diagonal support, we are currently sitting below it again as I speak. Now, this doesn't mean that it's the end. It's all over doom and gloom. Keep in mind, we did fall below those levels back here around September 30th, and then we came back above it again, October 14th. Now, obviously, this did take a few weeks to get back above this level, but it did not exactly signal investor confidence, whether it be in Bitcoin or traditional stocks. Now, we did have a recovery. That is something to note. However, what is happening right now with Bitcoin is the fact that we have open interest yet again, my friends, absolutely skyrocketing. And we know that when this happens, in fact, the last time that I told you that open interest was getting out of control, we did in fact have that massive liquidation event, which is telling me that very, very soon, I can't put an exact date on it, but I can tell you guys very soon, I would say by the end of this week, if not sooner, we are going to see an extremely volatile move for Bitcoin. You can see historically in the past, every time we get above this level, it does tend to happen. So in today's video, we're going to discuss what we can expect moving forward, and not to mention the fact that there is a potential black swan event that could actually happen. Now, before you freak out and assume that this is an incredibly bearish video, stick around, because actually the potential results of this black swan event might actually shock most investors as to what could happen. So you're going to want to stick around for that as well. And, I have gotten some criticism over, talking about whether or not we're in a bull market or a bear market. Now, look, guys, on the macro chart, on the monthly chart, we are putting in higher highs and higher lows, which is showing us that we are still, in fact, in a macro bull trend. But let's be honest, on the daily, Bitcoin has just continued to fall lower and lower. So yes, on the daily, we are in fact in a bear trend. Are we in a bear market? Well, if you have a look at this, we are still putting in higher highs and higher lows, right? So that is something I do want to talk about today. And on top of that, regardless of whether or not we are actually in a bull market or a bear market, a bull trend, a bear trend, a crab trend, as I've tried to tell you, there are still so many opportunities out there for making money in crypto. And I've always said that Bitcoin is for wealth preservation, right? Bitcoin is like the savings account. You set it and you forget it, but you also have that wealth generation. So there are opportunities, even if you do believe that we're in a bear market and the next 6 months are just going to be absolutely brutal for Bitcoin. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are still reasons to stick around. In fact, in today's video, I'm going to show you one project that I'm extremely bullish on. It's quite under the radar right now. Not a lot of people are talking about it. So if you're interested in all that, the short term, the long term, and my pick of the day, then stick around to the end of this video. And without further ado, let's dive directly into the charts. Now, obviously, we know that we just keep putting in these falling wedges. I'm sure every analyst is showing you this, so it's nothing that you haven't seen. Now, I talked about yesterday, there is a higher percentage chance of us breaking to the upside based on the technical formations of these types of patterns. However, given the current market climate, there is a lot of negative sentiment right now. We are seeing a lot of fear. People are looking at their portfolios. They're down compared to what they were, a month or two ago. People are freaking out. They're panic selling. I've seen it across all exchanges. I've even had phone calls with people freaking out like, hey man, what's going on with crypto? Let's relax and let's have a look at what is happening right now. Ultimately, we are in fact at a very critical level though. You can see that we are touching on this exact level where we had this previous resistance. And I haven't changed this level since we've been making these videos, and we are sitting at that right now. And the problem is that not only are we sitting at this extremely critical resistance that we were attempting to flip support, the same way that we had this bounce off of this liquidation cascade right here, we are currently sitting on those levels right now. And as you guys can see, we are basically forming this very tightening range right here, and Bitcoin is not going to stay in here much longer. It is looking for a very violent move to either the upside or the downside. Now, the question is, which way is it going to move? Well, as you can see right here, not a lot of support after this, right? If we fall down into these levels, it could get quite messy. Now, yes, I've spoke about the possibility of, putting in this giant M-shaped pattern, and we could come down here and retest the absolute bottom. In fact, I showed you an example in which we did that in the stock markets, and guess what, guys? They did, in fact, have a bounce back after that. But the biggest issue right now is the Bitcoin futures open interest. Now, this is a major concern, and you can see that every time we get above 240,000 Bitcoin roughly in these futures open positions, you notice that there tends to be massive moves in the Bitcoin price. Now, it doesn't always mean that you're going to have a move to the downside, all right? Just to point that out. For example, right now, we are seeing a lot of shorts. A lot of people are getting bearish on Bitcoin. They're piling them up. They're betting on the price going lower, and they may be right in the short term, but eventually what you do see is some form of a squeeze. Now, if just the way that, people start getting overly bullish, they start going crazy long, eventually we get a long squeeze, we see that dump to the downside. Vice versa, if you are seeing people start to get incredibly bearish, everybody starts shorting Bitcoin, well then usually you tend to see at least a minimal relief rally to the upside. And as you can see right here, guys, we are obviously in this territory and we are clearly looking for a move. So there is still that potential chance that we do have a short squeeze. Now, the thing I need to point out though, is this does not mean that the short squeeze has to become initiated with a massive pump to the upside. In fact, if we have a look at this critical level right here, you could see that falling back into this zone would not really be that great for Bitcoin. But what could happen is there could in fact be a bit of a fake out where Bitcoin goes down even to like 37,000, which I did say based on the hash ribbon indicator shows us that we have had the buy signal. It is arguably historically a good time to be buying Bitcoin. But as far as timing the absolute bottom, well, it shows that we usually put in a higher low. And as I said, being around 5 to 15% off that level would bring Bitcoin, potentially around the 33s even. But as I was saying, there was a lot of volume here around 35. So could we see a fake out to the downside? Something like this. The shorts are celebrating. Yes, the price is dumping. The bears are winning. And then we have that blast off move. That would not be uncommon. The same way that even back here when Bitcoin came all the way down to 28,000, we still came back up and reclaimed that $42,000 level. We could do something similar, where we come down here to the 35, only then to continue. I actually think that would be likely. And the reason that would be likely is because it would give the bears confidence. They'd be like, yes, I knew that the Ponzi was over. I knew that I was winning. It would also, dishearten the fears of, or dishearten the bulls. We'd be like, oh man, I guess we really are going into a bear market. Catches everybody off sides. All of a sudden the shorts are getting wrecked. And now we're back to business as usual. I have seen this hundreds of times before, right? And if you do want to base it on the worst case scenario, I still hold the 1.618 right here as the critical level, which in my opinion, worst case, as I've been saying for months on this channel, worst case, we put in that M-shaped pattern and we go down to 30,000. Now, I know that would scare a lot of you. And you would say it was over. It's a double top. It's the end of the markets. And I can tell you guys, historically speaking, no. Every single time that people think the markets are dead, people think Bitcoin is gone, people think that there's no way it could come back from the dead, it usually ends up surprising everyone. And as I pointed out on this monthly chart, we are still in bullish territory. We are still holding above the EMA ribbon. We are still putting in higher highs and we are still putting in higher lows. It really doesn't become a major concern for a lengthy bear market until you actually dip into this zone. And at no point, not even during the 55% crash that we had back here, did we even touch it. And look at this right here. The month of July looked like we came close, but we never actually touched it. So I know it's scary. Yes, we could go lower. I do anticipate a volatile move, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a sort of V-shaped, where the shorts think they're in profit, shorts get squeezed out, and then Bitcoin continues to the upside, right? But I know what you're saying. What about what's going on with the Fed? We'll get to that in just a minute. But one chart that's sort of been really making its way around crypto, and I thought I would just talk about it. Everyone else is talking about it. So if you guys haven't seen this yet, it actually came out from TED Talks Macro, and he was pointing out the correlation between Bitcoin and 10-year bonds. Now, this is new to me. I haven't really seen this, but it is interesting to see the correlation. Now, could this just simply be a coincidence, or is this something we should pay attention to? Because you could see every single time we have a rise in the 10-year, we usually have a rise in Bitcoin as well. However, right here, you could see that the 10-year has gone up, whereas Bitcoin has continued to go down. So could this signal that if we do have a squeeze, it could potentially be in favor of the bulls? It's a possibility. Please let me know what you think. I would love to hear your input. If you think that this is just a bunch of hopium, it's over, it's done, let me know. And let me know why. Tell me why do you think it's over? But if you agree with the fact that Bitcoin is due for some sort of a relief rally, if you do think that we'll have a short squeeze, let me know. Like I said, it wouldn't be uncommon to see that fake out first. It's what Bitcoin does, fakes everyone out, right? You get wrecked on both sides. That's basically how trading Bitcoin goes occasionally, which is why dollar cost averaging is really the way to go. But you can see right here, as pointed out by Bardowski, he points out these different cycles. And if you do compare where Bitcoin is compared to previous cycles, and this is taking into consideration lengthening cycles, this isn't saying a 4-year cycle, you can see that, we aren't really anywhere near the top of where we should be according to any of these cycles. You should at least see Bitcoin have one major rally before the full-on bear market. And as we pointed out with the CBBI, I showed you guys, we are nowhere near the top. We're actually right in the middle. We're right in neutral zone, which is why right now there is in fact a lot of uncertainty going on in the crypto space. Now I'm going to show you two stories right now. So you have one that is a recent study from institutional investors and financial managers who together manage around $108.4 billion in assets. Now they revealed that ever since the coronavirus epidemic started, about 43% of them say that they now have a much more positive view of cryptocurrencies, and 35% say that it has improved slightly. So this research, commissioned by Nickel Digital Asset Management, they're a London-based digital asset hedge fund manager founded by senior traders and investment professionals. They also revealed that 78% of investors currently have a favorable or constructive view of Bitcoin, with only a mere 9% saying that they feel negative about Bitcoin right now. Now, on the flip side, let's look at both sides of the coins. We did have investment management firm Invesco projecting that the Bitcoin bubble is due to burst in 2022, citing reduced interest from investors. The investment giant compared the projected Bitcoin bubble burst to the 1929 crash, while suggesting that the recent mass marketing of the asset is losing momentum, considering that Bitcoin has experienced heightened volatility in 2021. Now, before we move on with this, I just want to point out, these are the same guys that said that Bitcoin was going to go down to $10,000 last year, and Bitcoin went to almost $70,000. So I don't really know. Invesco, maybe they're not really exposed. I don't know much about these guys. Maybe they have a certain interest in seeing Bitcoin not do well for their clients. Who really knows? But they've been wrong before. So wanted to bring this out to you, but can't really trust it too much, right? Can't really trust it too much. Now, the one thing that I will say with them, though, is saying that the Bitcoin bubble will burst in 2022. If you do actually look at the lengthening cycle, you can see that we were actually looking at around $190,000 projection for Bitcoin at the highs. And I still do stand by that, based over here on this percentage movement, right? Once we do break out of this 3.618, the next level is the 4.23, which we usually don't have too much of an issue getting out of. And often after that, Bitcoin does put in, and I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head. We did it live in that video from a few weeks ago. But remember, we got that $190,000 Bitcoin target. So I still do think it's possible. And here's the thing. If Bitcoin goes up to $190,000, right, just throwing it out there, and they say that the bubble bursts, if we do have an 80% drawdown to that, from that level, that brings us sort of right back around the $40,000 level, which would be hilarious because then, of course, Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin is dying. But, like people have been saying, $42,000 the first time we hit it, everybody was cheering. And now we're back at 42,000, everybody's crying. You got to look at it with a grain of salt, and you have to zoom out and see the perspective. But I have to get back again to Roy Niederhofer. You guys remember I played this clip from Kitco News the other day? Definitely check out Kitco News. I love their news. It's awesome. I love their interviews. He talks about this black swan event that could potentially happen. And before you freak out, listen to what he has to say and listen to his solution to the problem.
I remember a very bold statement that you made. In January of 2020, you correctly predicted how the world would respond to coronavirus. I recall you wrote a note saying to expect mass shutdowns globally. And I recall you telling me personally to stock up on supplies, including toilet paper, because New York is going to shut down. And I was like, Roy, that is ridiculous. New York, it's a city that never sleeps. They're never going to shut down New York. Well, clearly, you were right. We all know how that one played out. So given you were so spot on with the way you saw the COVID pandemic playing out, are there any other black swan events on your radar?
Well, I'm also willing to admit that I might have gotten lucky with that one. But so the commonality of the case for crypto and the bearish case for COVID, the worst case for COVID, is that it doesn't take much to prepare for the worst case. In the case of COVID, it might have taken $100 or $200 investment, and you really were able to get a lot of what one would have needed relatively easily. And it was a very small act to have to undertake. Right now, I believe the edge case downside is inflation is so powerful, and the Fed can't do anything about it because they can't go above 3-4% because the government can't fund itself at those levels. The stock market crashes, whatever it is, something happens and it causes money printing to be the only solution. That inflation is the only thing that can solve the funding problem of the government. And in that situation, if you've got any sort of cash asset, it's going to be devalued, not 30 or 50% like a stock market crash, but 90, 95, 99% or more. That's the edge case. It's unlikely. I know it's very, very unlikely to happen. So don't quote me and say Niederhofer said that the dollar was going to go 9. I didn't say that. However, it is a risk for everyone's portfolio. If you look back in economic history, it's events like this that destroy pools of wealth. It's not stock market crashes. So to me, that's the edge case, and it's so easy to prepare for it. Fixed supply assets, things that are inflation hedged, like real estate. I think gold is pretty interesting because in a negative real rate world, gold with a 0% return is a pretty interesting asset. And of course, as we've talked about, cryptocurrencies have a strong positive yield and can represent equity-like investments because the value that's being created by the network effect of billions of people using them could bring up the value by 10, 100, or even 1,000x in many cases of the smaller coins. So that's my edge case. Again, prepare for it. It doesn't cost much to have a little bit of your portfolio in these things, but I think that would be my worst case scenario.
Now, we know that historically, most fiat currencies are lucky if they can last 100 years, right? Now, if you look at the current US dollar, it depends on where you start looking at the dollar from, right? Realistically, if you take it from the time that we went on the gold standard during the Nixon era, or we went off the gold standard, I should say, you can argue that that was the potential true start of the US dollar, although some people may say it started in, the early 1900s. Well, whatever it is that you say, you could see, I Googled this, by the way, the longest lasting fiat money is apparently the British pound sterling. It is over 325 years old. However, you can see, and this is right at the top of the Google search, it has lost almost 100% of its value. The devaluation story of the US dollar is no less dismal. So it is inevitable that at the end of the day, the dollar will continue to lose value. And like Max Kaiser said yesterday, okay, so the Fed comes out and says they're going to do this, they're going to taper, but it's only a Band-Aid. It is just a short-term solution to arguably a problem that can't be solved, which is why if you have that long-term vision, you understand that sure, Bitcoin could lose value in the short term. It could definitely be affected by the stock market short term. But long term, my friends, Bitcoin is the greatest hedge against inflation. And as you can see back here, just from this study alone, having 43% saying that they're having a much more positive view and 78% saying that they have a favorable or constructive view of Bitcoin, you are certainly seeing the narrative shift. And I know in crypto, we're used to things moving at lightning speed. We want it to happen overnight. But just understand, these things take time. But the dominoes are aligning. The stars are aligning, my friends. And this is why I continue to stay in crypto and I continue to buy Bitcoin on every dip that I can possibly find, because I know that these prices today are going to be laughable the next cycle. People are going to say, my goodness, why didn't I buy Bitcoin when it was 45,000? So what if it goes down to 30 short term? If you know, or you believe the way that I believe that Bitcoin's going to $1 million in our lifetime, which I absolutely believe we will see that, whether it takes 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we are going to see $1 million Bitcoin, because there is no way that this inflation is ever going to be stopped. So that being said, let me move on to some other things real quick. I don't want to make this video too long. I have a bad habit of making very long videos. You guys know that. So I did want to point out the fact that regardless of what we're seeing right now, we are still seeing the growth and interest in the broader cryptocurrency space. We're seeing interest in NFTs, DeFi. For example, Mercedes-Benz has teamed up with Art to People to create an exclusive Mercedes-Benz NFT collection based on its G-Class vehicles. And not only that, but Coinbase is actually partnering with MasterCard to make NFT purchases easy. They say that despite the growth of NFTs in recent months, Coinbase said that purchasing digital collectibles is still a complex experience for many users. Most people, they just figure out how to set up an Ethereum wallet and buy an ERC20 token and stuff. And now all of a sudden it's like NFTs. And what about minting NFTs, creating NFTs, right? That is kind of complicated on its own if you don't know what you're doing. They say that they collaborated with MasterCard, and both companies will classify NFTs as digital goods to allow customers to purchase such collectibles with ease, which perfectly transitions into this next project, which I think is absolutely incredible, guys. So this is a first of its kind. Let me know. I could be totally wrong. Maybe there's something I don't know, but I have never seen something that actually makes the ease of launching an NFT collection this easy. And this is literally Launch My NFT. Now, what's crazy about these guys is they totally went under the radar. They have live collections right now. So this website went live like 45 days ago or something like that. And apparently, without any promotion or any marketing of any sort, they have had literally hundreds of collections already on here. I think they may have even breached 1,000 at this point, and they're already generating revenue. So they have a working product. And what do these guys do? Well, they actually have a very simple way that you can launch your NFT. In fact, there is I think there's an explainer video somewhere. You can see right down here. I mean, if you watch this video, it is insane how easy it is to do. I mean, the amount of money that you could save. I had a friend actually that was asking me about making NFTs a few weeks ago. He's interested. He likes to draw and do art and stuff like that. And he wanted to launch his own collection. And he said to me, what's the best way to do it? And I was like, well, I can tell you a lot of different places that you can go to launch your NFTs, but actually launching and creating the NFT itself, how do you make it, randomized? How do you decide which ones are going to be rare? How do you make it fairly distributed? Things of that nature. These guys are taking care of all of this. And I think it's going to be huge. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because they are, in fact, doing a launch over on VLaunch. Now, I told you guys about VLaunch, and I said that it would, not financial advice, but probably makes sense to stake some tokens here, because when you stake your tokens, you are eligible to get involved in these lotteries. Now, unfortunately, the whitelist is closed. But guys, this is why I said pay attention to VLaunch, because they're going to have a lot of these different projects coming out. But Launch My NFT is incredibly unique. And what's interesting about them, what actually makes them unique to me and makes them not really competitive with some of these other guys like OpenSea and things like that, is not only what they're offering, but the fact that they're only taking a 2.5% fee on minting. They're not taking fees based on, if you then transfer it to somebody else. So it's only a one-time fee for the service. And then after that, you can essentially just do whatever you want. Not to mention the fact that they are partnered with Chainlink, okay? Certic, Civic, so they're going to have it audited, so you're not going to have any of these buggy contracts. You're not going to have these like rug pulls or scam NFT launches that we have seen in the past. And by the way, just so you guys know, I actually had a phone call with one of the founders because I wanted to know more about this. I wanted to understand exactly what these guys are doing. And I can tell you that what they are building it's definitely a first that I've ever seen. And they are, for some of their partners include eToro, Gate.io, Banter Capital. I'm sure you guys are familiar with them. Obviously, I said Civic and Certic and Chainlink. VLaunch clearly. KuCoin, which, to be honest, is probably my favorite centralized exchange. Just gonna be honest. I love KuCoin. I used to be a big Binance guy. I just don't really appreciate Binance. Plus, they're just really not friendly. if you're outside of their jurisdiction. KuCoin, amazing platform. So yeah, guys, this is definitely a project to keep your eyes on. And as far as the token is concerned, there is going to be a massive amount of utility for the token. It's not just going to be a speculative thing. So like obviously right now, and you can read through this if you want, membership, cashback programs, reduced mining fees. And also, they're going to potentially be using it for these bigger brands, for licensing and things of that nature. So stick around for that. But one of the reasons why I say it's something to keep your eyes on is, look, if you guys didn't get into the whitelist, if you weren't paying attention, not saying to rush into it, not saying when it comes out you should buy this. But what I am saying is I do think that first mover advantages have a lot of potential. And this is definitely something that I think is gonna do really well. I really do. Because it's a pain point that's solving a lot of problems that people have right now. How do I actually create and launch my own platform? So yeah, guys, definitely keep your eyes on Launch My NFT. I think this is going to be really big. I don't see this project getting smaller. I see it only getting bigger over time. And they have a product right now. It's live and people are using it. So that to me definitely sparks a lot of confidence. So I wanted to bring that to you guys, not shilling it. Don't buy the token just because I said it. Literally, just keep your eyes on it. I think it's going to do well. And yeah, I definitely have my eyes on this. So keep your eyes on that, guys. Launch My NFT. I think it's going to be quite big. So that's the big project of the day. Let me know how you guys feel about that. Like I said, doesn't matter if we're in a bull trend, bear trend, sideways trend, there are always opportunities. And actually, to be honest with you, I tend to find the people that are working, that are building in the boring times. Everybody's launching projects when prices are up and everybody's excited, right? But when you see companies and projects building in times when it's boring and Bitcoin is down 35, 40% and investors are losing confidence, and they're coming forward with these projects and they're trying to evolve the space and make it easier for people to use, those are the projects that you want to keep your eyes on, guys. That's why, I've mentioned on this channel a few of them. I mentioned, Phantasma, Symbiosis. This is another project as well. VLaunch, just as an actual launch pad in itself, I think is a great opportunity because essentially it's airdrops. You just get airdrops for holding tokens. I mean, it's literally free money. So anyway, I do just want to end on regulation, everybody's favorite topic. So Great Britain is aiming at regulating cryptocurrency and the DeFi industry as a whole. Regulators have also proposed to remove references to blockchain from definition of crypto assets, but have not clarified how. In addition to crypto assets, decentralized finances are also in the scope of regulation, but DeFi assets are going to be considered on a case-to-case basis instead of one universal regulatory framework. And I know people don't like regulation. I know it goes against Satoshi's vision, but it's coming either way, guys, and it will actually be good for the space, and it will definitely, although it may not be good for every project, right, especially projects that are deemed as securities, that are touting themselves as utilities, right, that's going to be a problem. But it's going to be amazing for the legitimate projects out there, especially for things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, layer ones, and as they said, case-by-case basis for some of these DeFi protocols. But ultimately, I do think it's good. I think the fact that they're looking at it, that they're paying attention, that they realize that it's not going away, and they realize that we have a need for integrating it into the legacy system, I think is a plus overall for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And that being said, thank you so much if you stuck all the way to the end of this video. You guys know I have a tendency of making these longer videos and ranting, but I just like to let you guys know what I'm looking at, what I see, what is going on. And, currently looking at this right now, we are looking for some massive volatility very soon. I would say that it can't go any longer than January 22nd because that is the end of this pattern. So could we go for 3 more days sideways? Possible. But I would expect to move sooner than later. So that being said, thank you so much again for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. Let me know, what do you think about everything we went over today? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you a bull? Are you a bear? Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you flipping altcoins and NFTs? What are you doing right now? Very interested. And if there's anything that you want me to cover on this channel, any projects that you think are worth looking at, legitimate projects, not to just shill, let me know why. Let me know what about that project interests you. And of course, guys, make sure that you watch these 2 videos popping up right here, right now. Extremely informative videos. And until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.